I live in a picturesque suburban town, the kind with white picket fences and manicured lawns, in a house my husband Mark and I designed together. As a marketing director for a major tech firm, my life is a carefully curated campaign of success and stability, or so it seemed. Our daughter, Emily, was the centerpiece of our perfect family portrait, the culmination of 20 years of shared dreams. But a single sentence, delivered with the casual cruelty of a stranger, was about to set fire to that portrait, leaving nothing but ashes and the bitter taste of betrayal. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. Life, for the most part, felt like a well-executed marketing plan. My career was thriving. I had spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder, securing the coveted director position a year before my 37th birthday. It was a demanding job, filled with high-stakes presentations, tight deadlines, and the constant pressure to innovate, but I loved the challenge. The sense of accomplishment that came with launching a successful campaign was a thrill I never tired of. Mark, my husband of 20 years, was an architect. He was brilliant, respected in his field, and the co-creator of the life I cherished. We had met in college, he, the charming, ambitious artist, and I, the driven, organized planner. We were a perfect match, our skills and personalities complementing each other like a well-designed blueprint. Our home was his masterpiece, a sprawling modern structure with clean lines and vast windows that flooded every room with light. It was our sanctuary, a testament to our shared success. Our daughter, Emily, was our greatest joint project. She was smart, funny, and on the cusp of starting her own life. Her high school graduation was just a week away, and the house buzzed with a joyful, anticipatory energy. I had spent weeks planning the perfect graduation party. The caterers were booked, the decorations were ordered, and a custom cake shaped like a stack of books, each spine bearing the title of one of her favorite novels, was being crafted by the best baker in town. It was meant to be a celebration of her achievements, a perfect day to mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Mark seemed as excited as I was. He had taken the lead on designing the outdoor lighting, promising to turn our backyard into a magical twilight garden for the event. He spoke of his pride in Emily, his voice swelling with emotion as he talked about her bright future. We were, to anyone looking in, the picture of a happy, successful family, the Smiths, the couple who had it all. But beneath the polished surface, hairline cracks had begun to form, so small I barely registered them at first. Mark had become more distant in recent months. He was working late more often. His phone was always glued to his hand, and he would often angle it away from me when a text came in. When I questioned him, he'd sigh and brush it off as work stress. "It's this new luxury condo project, Jess," he'd say, his voice weary. "The clients are demanding, and the deadlines are insane." I accepted his explanation. His job was demanding, and I knew the pressure he was under. I tried to be more supportive, suggesting weekend getaways or quiet nights in, but he always had an excuse. The project needed him. He was too tired. Maybe next month. The physical intimacy between us had dwindled to a perfunctory peck on the cheek before bed. The easy laughter and late-night conversations that had once been the bedrock of our marriage were replaced by a quiet, sterile distance. I told myself it was a phase, a temporary casualty of 2 demanding careers and the stress of raising a teenager. I convinced myself that once Emily's graduation was over and the condo project was complete, things would return to normal. We would find our way back to each other. I clung to that hope, watering it daily with denial, refusing to see the weeds that were slowly choking the life out of our marriage. The perfect facade was everything, and I was its most loyal guardian, polishing the exterior while the foundation crumbled beneath my feet. I didn't want to believe that the man I had loved for 2 decades, the father of my child, could be capable of the kind of deception that was lurking just below the surface. The truth, however, was a patient predator, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The day of Emily's graduation was flawless. The sun shone brightly in a cloudless sky, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the oak trees lining our street. Emily was a vision in her cap and gown, her eyes sparkling with excitement and a touch of nervousness. I felt a lump form in my throat as I watched her walk across the stage to receive her diploma, my heart swelling with a fierce, all-consuming pride. Mark was beside me, his arm around my shoulders, squeezing gently. He whispered, "Look at her, Jess, we did that." In that moment, surrounded by the cheering crowd and the triumphant music, the distance of the past few months seemed to melt away. He was my Mark again, my partner, sharing this perfect milestone with me. The party that afternoon was a resounding success. Our home was filled with the laughter of friends and family. Emily, surrounded by her classmates, was radiant. Mark played the role of the proud father and gracious host to perfection, topping up glasses, sharing anecdotes about Emily's childhood, and ensuring everyone felt welcome. I watched him from across the lawn, a genuine smile on my face for the first time in what felt like months. The unease that had been my constant companion had finally receded. I thought, we're going to be okay. This is us. This is real. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the backyard, Mark found me by the dessert table. He draped his arm around my waist and pulled me close. "Can I steal you for a minute?" he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. "There's something I need to talk to you about." I assumed he wanted to discuss a surprise gift for Emily or perhaps suggest a family vacation to celebrate. I followed him into the quiet of his home office, the sound of the party fading behind us. He closed the door, shutting out the happy noise, and the sudden silence felt heavy, ominous. He didn't sit down. He stood by the large window that overlooked the garden, his back to me. "The party is great, Jess. You outdid yourself, as always." His voice was flat, devoid of the warmth it held just moments before. "We outdid ourselves," I corrected gently, a knot of apprehension tightening in my stomach. "We make a good team." He turned around, and the expression on his face was one I had never seen before. It was a cold, detached mask. There was no love, no warmth, just a chilling resolve. "That's the thing," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "We're not a team anymore, and I can't do this." I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. "Do what, Mark? You're not making any sense. The condo project, is that what this is about?" He let out a short, harsh laugh. "No, Jessica, it's not about the project, it's about us. There is no us." The words hung in the air, sharp and poisonous. I stared at him, my mind refusing to process their meaning. This had to be a joke, a cruel, twisted joke, but his eyes were dead serious. "I'm leaving you," he stated as matter of factly, as if he were announcing he was going out to get milk. "I've fallen in love with someone else. I'm moving out tonight." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. I reached for his desk to steady myself, my knuckles white against the dark wood. "Tonight? You're leaving me tonight, on the day of our daughter's graduation party?" The sheer audacity, the calculated cruelty of his timing, was breathtaking. He had stood beside me all day, playing the part of the devoted husband and father, while this bomb was ticking away inside him. "I didn't want to ruin Emily's day," he said, the words a hollow, pathetic attempt at justification. "Ruin her day." My voice cracked, a mixture of disbelief and rising fury. "You think telling me this after the party somehow makes it better? You think our daughter won't be devastated? You think our entire life, our 20 years together, can just be thrown away in a 5-minute conversation while our friends and family celebrate in the next room?" He had the decency to look away, unable to meet my gaze. "Her name is Chloe. She's an interior designer I've been working with on the condo project. It just happened." Chloe, the name echoed in the silent room. A faceless, nameless entity who had just bulldozed my life. The pieces started to click into place. The late nights, the secretive texts, the emotional distance. It wasn't work stress. It was an affair. The man I had built my world with had been meticulously dismantling it behind my back. He continued, his voice gaining a strange, almost rehearsed momentum. "I've already packed a bag. It's in the car. I'll have the rest of my things moved out by the end of the week. The house is in both our names, but I'm willing to be generous. We can sell it and split the proceeds, or you can buy me out. We'll need to discuss finances. Custody of nothing since Emily is 18. He was talking about the logistics of our divorce as if he were closing a business deal. The cold, clinical precision of it all was the final, brutal twist of the knife. He hadn't just decided to leave, he had a plan. A whole new life mapped out while I was still blissfully curating the old one. He turned to leave, his hand on the doorknob. "I'll go say my goodbyes. I don't want to make a scene." A surge of pure, unadulterated rage cut through my shock. I stepped forward, my voice low and shaking. "You will do no such thing. You will go back out to that party, and you will smile, and you will play the part you've been playing all day. You will not ruin this night for our daughter. You owe her that much." He looked at me, a flicker of surprise in his cold eyes. He nodded curtly. "Fine, but I'm leaving the moment the last guest is gone." He opened the door and walked out, the mask of the happy family man slipping perfectly back into place. I was left alone in the silent office, the echo of his words reverberating off the walls, the perfect facade of my life shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The party music drifted in through the open door, a mocking soundtrack to my personal apocalypse. The rest of the party was a blur. I moved through the crowd in a daze, a brittle smile plastered on my face. I accepted congratulations for Emily, laughed at jokes I didn't hear, and refilled glasses with a trembling hand. Every time I saw Mark chatting with our friends, a model of paternal pride, a fresh wave of nausea washed over me. He was a stranger. This man, who knew every one of my secrets and fears, was a complete and utter stranger. The performance was agonizing. The effort it took to maintain my composure, to keep the screams of grief and rage locked inside my chest, was physically draining. By the time the last guest waved goodbye from the driveway, I was running on fumes. True to his word, the moment the house was empty, Mark walked to the front door. He didn't look at me. He looked at Emily, who was happily recounting a story from the ceremony. He hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. I have to go, an early meeting tomorrow." It was a flimsy excuse, but Emily, wrapped in the glow of her perfect day, didn't question it. She just hugged him back. "Thanks, Dad. I love you. I love you too," he said, his voice thick. For a moment, I thought he might break, that a sliver of the man I once knew might reappear. But then he released her, gave me a brief, unreadable glance, and walked out the door. The click of the lock sounded like a gunshot in the quiet house. My carefully constructed world had just ended. Emily turned to me, her smile faltering as she finally saw the devastation on my face. "Mom, what's wrong? You look pale." The dam broke. I collapsed onto the sofa, and the whole sordid story came pouring out in a torrent of sobs and broken sentences. Holding my weeping daughter in my arms, comforting her over a betrayal that was just as much hers as it was mine, was the hardest thing I had ever had to do. The next morning, I woke up with a crushing sense of emptiness. The house felt cavernous, the silence deafening. Mark was gone. The reality of it was a physical weight on my chest. I called my best friend, Sarah Jenkins. We had known each other since my first day at my first job, and she was the one person I knew I could count on for anything. She was a partner at a family law firm, a sharp, no-nonsense woman with a fiercely loyal heart. When I told her what had happened, her response was immediate and unequivocal. "I'm coming over. Don't do anything, don't talk to him. Don't even think about him until I get there, and for God's sake, do not leave the house." Sarah arrived 20 minutes later, armed with coffee, pastries, and a formidable legal mind. She listened patiently as I recounted the entire conversation, her expression growing harder with every word. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment, her eyes narrowed in thought. "The timing is suspicious," she said finally. "Dropping this bomb on graduation day, wanting to move out immediately, talking about being generous with the house. It's all too neat. People in love don't act this clinically. People planning a coup do." Her words sparked something in me. He had mentioned Chloe was an interior designer on his condo project. A quick search on his firm's website confirmed it. There was a glowing feature on the project's lead architect, Mark Thompson, and his collaboration with the visionary interior designer, Chloe Davis of Davis Designs. There was a picture of them standing side by side on the construction site, both beaming. Chloe was young, maybe mid-20s, with the effortless style and bright-eyed ambition of someone whose life hadn't yet hit any major roadblocks. Seeing her face, so full of life and promise, standing next to my husband was like a physical blow. "Sarah," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "what if this isn't just an affair? What if it's more? That's what we're going to find out," she replied, her tone steely. "The first thing we need to do is get a clear picture of your finances, all of them. Joint accounts, credit cards, investments, his business accounts if you have access." That night, after Emily had gone to bed, I descended into the rabbit hole of our financial history. I had always trusted Mark to handle the bulk of our investments and long-term financial planning. He was the financial expert after all. My focus was on my career and managing the household budget. It was a division of labor that had always worked for us. Now, that trust felt like a staggering act of foolishness. I logged into our joint banking portal, my heart pounding in my ears. I started with the credit card statements, scrolling back month after month. And then I saw it, the first thread, a recurring charge from a high-end restaurant I'd never been to, then another from a boutique hotel downtown, then flowers, jewelry, weekend trips to Napa that were supposedly business conferences. The charges were spread across different cards, small enough to fly under the radar unless you were specifically looking for them. But when I added them all up, the total was staggering. He hadn't just been having an affair, he had been funding a whole separate life with our money. My money, the anger that had been simmering beneath my grief, began to boil. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, methodical theft. He was stealing from his own family to build a new one. The unraveling had begun. Armed with a spreadsheet of suspicious charges and a cold, hard knot of fury in my stomach, I started digging deeper. Sarah had advised me to act as if nothing was wrong if Mark contacted me, to be compliant and agreeable while we gathered our ammunition. The call came the next day. His tone was business. Like, as if he were calling a contractor, he wanted to arrange a time for the movers to come. Of course, Mark, I said, my voice sweet as poison, whenever is convenient for you. Just let me know. Great, he replied, audibly relieved. I knew you'd be reasonable about this. The condescension in his voice was so thick I could have choked on it. He thought I was a pushover, a broken woman who would simply roll over and accept whatever scraps he deigned to throw my way. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I was a marketing director. My entire career was built on understanding strategy, perception, and leverage. He had just declared war, and I was about to launch the campaign of a lifetime. My next stop was Mark's home office. I had always respected his privacy, but the gloves were off. I searched his desk, his file cabinets, his computer. Tucked away in a folder labeled Project Archive, I found what I was looking for, a sub-folder titled Dream House. It wasn't a project for a client, it was for him. The architectural plans were breathtaking. A stunning modern home nestled in the hills of Sonoma, with an infinity pool, a state of the art kitchen, and a master suite bigger than our current living room. The client name on the blueprint was M. Thompson and C. Davis. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a fantasy. The folder also contained geological surveys, permit applications filed with the county, and a signed purchase agreement for a multi-million-dollar plot of land. The purchase had been made 6 months ago through a shell LLC I'd never heard of. The money trail was the next piece of the puzzle. How did he afford the land? I logged into our joint investment portfolio, a place I hadn't looked at in years. The balance was significantly lower than I remembered. I started going through the transaction history. Over the past year, Mark had been systematically liquidating stocks and mutual funds, our retirement funds, and transferring the money to an unknown account. The sums were massive. He had been bleeding our future dry, siphoning off our shared assets to fund his new life with Chloe. The architect hadn't just designed a new house, he had architected a grand deception, a meticulous plan to strip me of everything we had built together. I called Sarah, my voice shaking with a mixture of rage and a strange, vindictive clarity. He bought land, I told her. He's building them a house with our money. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Jess, this is a game changer. This isn't just marital infidelity. This is fraud, deliberate, malicious financial dissipation of marital assets. She explained that in our state, any assets acquired during the marriage were considered community property. By secretly liquidating and redirecting those assets for his own benefit without my knowledge or consent, he had broken the law. The final piece fell into place that evening. I was sorting through a stack of mail on the kitchen counter, mostly junk, when a sleek black envelope caught my eye. It was from a prestigious architectural guild addressed to Mark. I opened it without a second's hesitation. It was an invitation to their annual awards gala, where Mark was being honored. He was set to receive the Visionary of the Year award for his work on the luxury condo project, the very project that had served as the cover for his affair. The irony was so bitter it tasted like acid. He was going to be celebrated for the lie that had destroyed my life. The invitation mentioned that he would be giving an acceptance speech, a public platform where he would no doubt thank his supportive team and project an image of integrity and success. I looked at the blueprint for his Sonoma dream house, the evidence of his financial betrayal spread out on my dining room table, and the glossy invitation to the awards gala. The disparate pieces of his deceit formed a sickeningly clear picture. He hadn't just left me, he had been planning to erase me. He wanted to walk away with half our assets, his career at its peak, and a new life with a younger woman, leaving me to pick up the pieces of a life he had secretly demolished. But the architect of deceit had made one critical error in his design. He had underestimated me. He saw me as a wife, a mother, a partner he could discard. He had forgotten that I was a strategist, and I was about to build a counter-offensive he would never see coming. With Sarah's legal guidance, I spent the next 2 weeks meticulously building my case. We operated like a special ops team on a mission. The first step was to secure our remaining assets. Sarah immediately filed an ex parte motion with the family court, a request for an emergency order without the other party being present. She drafted a declaration detailing Mark's confession, the suspicious credit card charges, and the evidence of the liquidated investment accounts. A sympathetic judge granted our request, issuing a temporary restraining order that froze all our joint bank accounts and investment portfolios. Mark would not be able to move another dime without a court order. It was a preemptive strike, cutting off his financial supply line. Next, we hired a forensic accountant, a quiet, methodical man named Mr. Davies, who took my spreadsheet of suspicious charges and turned it into a weapon. He delved into years of financial records, bank statements, and tax returns. He subpoenaed records for the shell LLC Mark had created, tracing the flow of money from our liquidated investments directly to the purchase of the Sonoma land and payments to contractors. He uncovered business expenses that were clearly personal, lavish dinners with Chloe, flights for 2 site visits in Hawaii, and consulting fees paid to Davis Designs for work that was never done on his firm's projects. The report he produced was a masterpiece of financial forensics, a damning, page-by-page account of Mark's calculated theft. The total amount he had fraudulently diverted from our marital estate was well into the 7 figures. While Mr. Davies was unearthing the financial crimes, I focused on the personal front. I needed to control the narrative. Mark was a man obsessed with his public image and professional reputation. His Visionary of the Year award was the culmination of his life's work, and the gala was his coronation. That was his weakness. That was my point of leverage. I crafted an email. It was a work of art, written with the precision and emotional manipulation of a seasoned marketing professional. It was addressed to the 5 members of the board of the Architectural Guild, the very people who had voted to give Mark his award. I introduced myself as Jessica Smith, Mark Thompson's wife of 20 years. I congratulated them on their selection for the award, praising Mark's talent and dedication. Then, with surgical precision, I laid out the truth. I didn't rant or rave. I presented the facts calmly and rationally. I explained that the very project for which he was being honored was the one he had used as a cover to conduct an affair with his much younger interior designer. I mentioned that he had announced he was leaving me on the night of our daughter's graduation party. And then I dropped the bombshell. I detailed how he had systematically and illegally drained our shared life savings, our retirement funds, to secretly purchase land and begin construction on a multi-million-dollar home for himself and his mistress. I attached a single, damning piece of evidence to the email, the first page of the forensic accountant's report, which clearly showed the flow of funds from our joint investment account to the Shell LLC. I concluded the email by stating that while I admired the Guild's commitment to honoring excellence, I felt they should be aware of the true nature of the man they were about to celebrate. I suggested that honoring a man who used his professional success to perpetrate such a profound personal and financial betrayal might not align with the Guild's values of integrity and ethics. I ended with a simple, powerful line, "I trust you will do what is right." I hit send and a sense of calm washed over me. The trap was set. 2 days later, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Arthur Vance, the chairman of the Architectural Guild. His voice was grave. He apologized profusely for intruding on a private family matter, but said my email had caused significant concern among the board members. They had done their own preliminary verification and confirmed the land purchase through the LLC. The Guild, he explained, could not be seen to endorse such unethical behavior. The Visionary of the Year award was being rescinded. Mark would be notified the day of the gala. They were pulling his speech from the program. The final piece of my plan involved the house, our house, the one he had designed, the symbol of our life together. The movers were scheduled to arrive on the morning of the gala to collect the last of Mark's things. I had agreed to be out of the house to avoid a confrontation, but I wasn't just going to leave. The night before, I took a can of black spray paint, the kind used for stenciling, and walked into his pristine, minimalist walk-in closet. On the large, empty white wall where his suits used to hang, I wrote a single word in large block letters, liar. I did the same on the back of the door to his office and on the garage wall where he parked his car. It was petty, yes, but it was for me, a small, defiant act of reclaiming my space. He wanted to erase me, but I was going to make sure he could never forget what he did. The counteroffensive was built. All the pieces were in place. All that was left was to watch him walk into the ambush I had so carefully designed. The day of the gala arrived, a gray, overcast Saturday that perfectly matched my mood. I had sent Emily to spend the weekend with my sister, shielding her from the impending fallout. The house was quiet as the movers, a team of 2 burly men, efficiently packed the last of Mark's belongings. His books, his art, the few pieces of furniture that were unequivocally his. I watched from the window of a coffee shop down the street, a silent observer of my own life being dismantled. When they were done, they locked the door and left. It was time. My phone rang at precisely 4:00 p.m. It was Mark. His voice was a strangled gasp of fury. "What did you do, Jessica? What the hell did you do?" "I have no idea what you're talking about, Mark," I said, my voice a placid sea of innocence. "The Guild, they called me. They're pulling the award. They said they received disturbing information about my unethical conduct. This was your doing. You ruined my career. Your career," I replied, letting a sliver of ice enter my tone. "You think a trophy is your career. Your career is built on a foundation of lies. You lied to me, you lied to our daughter, and you lied to your colleagues. You stole from your own family. The only thing I did was turn on the light. You are the one who has been scurrying around in the darkness." He was sputtering now, a torrent of insults and threats pouring through the phone. I let him rant. He was a cornered animal, lashing out in a blind panic. While he was screaming, I heard a second voice in the background. "Chloe, Mark, what's wrong? You need to get ready." "Oh, is Chloe there?" I asked sweetly, put her on the phone. I think she and I should have a chat. There was a muffled sound, and then her voice, hesitant and wary. "Hello, Chloe," I said, my voice calm and firm. "This is Jessica, Mark's wife. I'm sure he's told you all about me. I just wanted to give you a little friendly advice. The multi-million-dollar dream house Mark is building for you in Sonoma. He paid for it with money he stole from our family's retirement accounts. Money that belongs to me and my daughter. Our lawyer has filed a lawsuit to reclaim all of it, every single penny, so that dream house, it's a crime scene. I hope you enjoy living in a monument to grand larceny. I suggest you get a very good lawyer. You're going to need one." I hung up the phone before she could respond. The silence that followed was deeply satisfying, but the main event was still to come. Sarah had arranged for Mark to be served with the divorce papers at the gala. Not just served, but served publicly. We hired a process server, a formidable-looking woman who specialized in high-profile targets. She would be waiting for him at the entrance to the ballroom. That evening, I sat on my sofa with a glass of wine and waited. At around 8:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. It was a link to a Twitter feed. A well-known architecture blogger who was attending the gala had just posted a photo. It was a picture of Mark, looking stunned and humiliated, holding a thick manila envelope. A stern-looking woman was walking away in the background. The caption read, "Huge drama at the Hash Arch Gala 2025. Visionary of the Year winner Mark Thompson served with what looks like legal papers on the red carpet. Rumors flying that his award was rescinded last minute. What is going on?" The story erupted. The blogger's post was retweeted dozens of times within minutes. Other attendees started posting, adding details. Mark and his date Chloe, looking pale and distraught, had been turned away at the door. There was a heated argument with security. They were escorted from the premises. The news of the rescinded award and the public serving created a firestorm in his professional circle. Mark's carefully constructed image of the brilliant, respectable architect was immolated in a matter of minutes in the most public way imaginable. The final reveal was for him alone. I knew he would come back to the house, if only to retrieve his car. When he finally arrived, well after midnight, I was waiting. I had turned on every light in the house, so it was blazing against the dark sky. He used his old key, a sign of his arrogant assumption that he could still come and go as he pleased. He stormed in, his face a thunderous mask of rage. "You," he seethed, his voice trembling. "You will pay for this." "No, Mark," I said, standing calmly at the top of the stairs. "You are the one who is going to pay. You built a life on deceit, and the bill has just come due." He started towards the stairs, but I held up a hand. "Don't bother. The locks have been changed. Your key won't work after tonight. Your things are gone. This is no longer your home." His eyes darted around, finally landing on his office. He strode towards it, and I heard his sharp intake of breath as he saw the word "liar" spray painted on the door. He threw it open, and then I heard a crash. He had seen the matching message on his closet wall. He came stumbling out, his face ashen. He had been so focused on his public humiliation that he hadn't realized I had defaced his private sanctuary as well. It was the final, personal blow, the intimate betrayal made manifest in black paint. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and, for the first time, fear. He finally understood. He had not discarded a weak, compliant wife. He had created an enemy who knew all his secrets and was not afraid to use them. He turned without another word and walked out of the house, out of my life forever. The aftermath was messy, but it was a cleansing fire. The divorce was brutal. Mark, stripped of his professional accolades and public standing, fought dirty. He tried to claim I was an unstable and vindictive woman, that I had masterminded his downfall out of jealousy. But facts are stubborn things. Sarah and the forensic accountant presented an airtight case. The judge was not impressed with Mark's narrative. The evidence of financial fraud was overwhelming. In the end, the settlement was more than I could have hoped for. The court awarded me 70% of the total marital assets, including the full value of the funds Mark had siphoned off. The Sonoma property was ordered to be sold, with all proceeds going directly to me to satisfy the judgment. The house, our home, was mine, free and clear. Chloe, facing potential legal action as a party to the fraud, disappeared from the picture, her visionary design career cut short. Mark's firm, reeling from the scandal, eventually pushed him out. He was forced to sell his partnership stake at a significant loss. The last I heard, he was working as a freelance consultant, his name a cautionary tale in the architectural community. The victory, however, felt hollow at first. I had won the war, but my life was still a battlefield. The house felt empty, haunted by memories. Every room held an echo of the life I thought I had. For weeks, I walked through the wreckage, picking through the emotional debris. But slowly, with the help of Emily and Sarah, I began to rebuild. Emily, with the resilience of youth, was my rock. She was angry at her father, but her focus was on our future. "We can repaint, Mom," she said one afternoon, gesturing at the living room walls. "We can make this place ours, not his and ours, just ours." And so we did. We started with his office. We painted over the word on the door and turned the room into an art studio for Emily. We tore out his built-in bookshelves and replaced them with a bright, sunny window seat. We sold the heavy, masculine furniture he had chosen and bought pieces that were light and comfortable. We reclaimed the space, one room at a time. The house began to breathe again. It began to feel like home. My home, I threw myself into my work, but with a new perspective. I was no longer chasing a shared dream. I was building my own empire. My confidence, which had been so deeply shaken, returned stronger than before. I had faced the ultimate betrayal and not only survived but thrived. I had proven to myself that I was a force to be reckoned with. About a year after the divorce was finalized, Sarah and I were having dinner on my patio, the one Mark had once promised to turn into a magical twilight garden. We had strung up our own lights, simple, warm globes that cast a soft glow over the yard. It was a beautiful evening. You know, Sarah said, swirling the wine in her glass, he thought his name on a building was a legacy. He thought a trophy on a mantelpiece meant success. I looked around at my home, at the life I was building from the ashes of my old one. I thought of my daughter, happily studying art at her dream college, and of the peace I now felt in my own skin. He was an architect, I said with a small smile. He was supposed to be an expert on foundations, but he built his entire life on sand. My legacy wasn't going to be etched in steel and glass. It was being built right here, in the quiet strength of my own resilience, in the love of my daughter, and in the freedom of a future that was entirely my own to design. The perfect facade was gone, and in its place was something far more beautiful, the messy, imperfect, and unbreakable truth. I had my own foundation now, and it was solid as rock.